welcome to the show. We are live on 96.9 The Game, streaming everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. You are in the zone. The show with the Orlando sports fan, your host, Brandon Kravitz here, joined by my co-host and producer. He is Sweet Tea, Tyler Caron. Hit us up, as you always do, on the Mills Air text line at 50857. Also, on that iHeartRadio talkback, we'd love to hear the melodic tones of your voice. Our prize today is your shot at your first beer on me at the Wing House draft event on Thursday night. That is right. I am giving away a purchase of your first beer out at Wing House on Thursday night. It is draft week, so we're excited to get out there. Wing House on Orange Blossom Trail. You can come and hang out with us. You don't have to RSVP, but if you want to guarantee that you have a table that you can sit at with you and your friends and be part of our draft competition, I encourage you to do that. Email me, Kravitz at 969thegame.com. But we'll give you a shot at that first brew coming up after tea time, presented by Wonder Fan at 4:50 today. It was an awesome weekend for me all around. Great time with the family. Watched a ton of basketball. And as much as I love the NCAA tournament, and I do, it is nice to lock in on a full day of basketball action where just about everybody can dribble and shoot. It is.
Oh no!
It's not now. I guess not everybody. We'll save our squad for just a moment. But all in all, tier 1 weekend for me, Sweet Tea. How about you?
Yeah, I don't know what you would call whatever the Memphis Grizzlies did over the weekend. I don't know if it's basketball, perhaps from a different planet, an alternative sport. But that 50-point beatdown in Oklahoma City. One thing that is beautiful about the first round of the NBA playoffs, especially on the weekend where you have 4 games on Saturday and Sunday, is you can lock into one game and one game only. You don't have to keep the 3-screen going, trying to bounce around from the 3-14 to the 9-8. You don't have to worry about that like you do in college basketball. It's one game, but it's also a blessing and a curse because then you end up with those Memphis games. And the start to yesterday's slate, really up until the nightcap with the Warriors and Rockets, not the most compelling basketball, but at least it's playoff. It's playoff NBA basketball.
Make Celtics first half was really good.
Yeah,
and then you didn't realize that it wasn't going to be a basketball game until about midway through the third quarter. So if you were sitting down and watching basketball all day on Sunday, the OKC blowout, at no point did you ever think that Memphis was going to be in that basketball game, but at least you saw something historic. Yep. And then the Magic gave you a good first half. And then Miami was hanging around. It always felt like Miami was in punching distance. And then the Cavs kind of ran away with it in the last couple of minutes. But that felt like a pretty good game. And then what did we end with? Oh, Rockets-Warriors turned out to be pretty good, too. That was the Warriors had a big lead in the first half, and then the Rockets made it a 3-point game in the second half. Jalen Green couldn't hit a shot. Obviously, the best game of the weekend was Nuggets-Clippers. Like that was awesome from beginning to end. But there were at least some moments in these other games.
Without a doubt, that Clippers-Nuggets game, the only game that was decided by single digits in game 1 of the opening series. I don't know if you've seen it. Do you want to take a guess at the average margin of victory in game 1s over the weekend?
It's
obviously boosted by a 50-point beatdown, but
I would say the average was, because of that 51 points, probably about 17 points per game.
19.1, the average margin of victory over the weekend in game 1. And as I mentioned, that Lakers-Denver game, the only one that was decided by single digits.
Well,
I don't know what the angle is there. I'm just laying out the facts.
Folks, bet props, bet totals. You'll always be involved. Okay, there's my advice to all of you. And then with all of that going on, the Magic are playing the Celtics. There's all these other NBA games I'm excited about. A lot of quality time with the family that I always cherish on the weekends. WrestleMania, 2 nights of this extravaganza, for which I will give a grade to coming up in about 30 minutes. And if you are a WWE apologist, you might not like it. I'll just say that.
I'll a quick disclaimer here, since we are on the video feed right now. You're getting my good side out there on camera, but I want to get this out there in case anyone is watching It might look like you can't see with the lighting. I look like I have a permanent nosebleed going on right now. I had a WrestleMania of my own with a football on Saturday afternoon at the beach. Complete bystander. Some of my buddies are tossing the pigskin, and I just hear, "Look out!" And I turn around right into this football smacking me right under the nose. So I look like I have a permanent nosebleed going. Wow. It's a good look.
This is why you can't be friends with Zach Wilson. You never know where that ball is going to go. It looks worse today than it looked yesterday.
I think it's about the lighting that you catch it at, but yeah, it's not particularly pretty, but it makes me stronger. You know,
bruises do fall into that old adage that the night is darkest before the dawn. That's beautiful. Kind of how. Thank you. It's kind of how bruises work. That'll be the most poetic thing you hear all day. Not the ideal start for the Magic in their round one series with the Boston Celtics. Got off to a rocking start, a 1-point halftime lead. Couldn't really ask for much better than that, but a second half surge from the Celtics would derail any sort of dreams of winning that game or even staying close. 55-37, the Celtics outscored the Magic in the second half. The Magic did a really good job on the main cogs of the Celtics game plan with so much effort, expelled trying to slow down Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, for which they did a really good job. Kristaps Porzingis also had a really rough game. He was 1 of 8 from the field, but the role players got loose. Derek White knocked down almost as many threes as the Magic did, and Peyton Pritchard broke down the Magic defense left and right. Peyton Pritchard, I'm sure that Sweet T noticed this. They were kind of picking on Cole Anthony. So if you're wondering, well, why didn't we see more Cole? That's why. They are attacking Cole Anthony. The second they can get away from the physicality and length and attack Cole, they're going to do that. And Peyton Pritchard is part of the reason why he was able to go off for 19. Of course, the Magic got that Herculean effort from Paolo. He scored 36. He got 59 from Paolo and Franz combined. I thought there were some rough moments for Franz, but all in all, he gave you way more than anybody else. 27 points from players not named Paolo and Franz in that basketball game. You are going to get blown out every time that happens. Also, fast break points heavily in the favor of Boston, 26-4. The Magic only mustered 11 second chance points on 13 offensive rebounds, just not capitalizing on those opportunities. The Celtics got easy baskets. They always make it look easy, so that's not going to change game to game. Even in a game where they're not scoring a ton, 103 points, didn't it feel like everything Boston did came easy to them? And the Magic, I think you look and say, okay, defensively they did a really good job, but it's like you can only plug the holes of this leak for so long because there's always somebody on the floor that can knock down a shot from anywhere. I don't know how you defend this team, Tyler.
It seems like it's the most well-rounded team that you have in the Eastern Conference. I'll say that. And Cleveland is the 1 seed, but Cleveland isn't as versatile as what Boston is, to your point of when Jarrett Allen is at the top of the key, you'll beat him into taking that 26-footer. There is not a single player for the Celtics, for the most part, that was at least on the court yesterday, that you feel comfortable giving up a shot from anywhere on the court. Curious to see what the adjustments are. Kristaps Porzingis, I think, is a big key to all of this. He finished 1 of 8 from the field. He only attempted 2 threes. It was a little bit more of that where the Magic were trying to bait the Celtics into using Kristaps. I think the Celtics adjust and bring him outside. I think Kristaps Porzingis cannot operate as well as what he should in that 15-foot range. I think you're going to see him just transition outside and just leave more space open because they are good at finding the mismatches. Whoever Cole Anthony is on, okay, let's go. Peyton Pritchard had Steve Nash moments yesterday where he's just able to get by, collapse the defense, run all the way out to the corner, and then find an open shooter. You're not going to get the 49 points combined from Pritchard and Derek White every single night. Coach Mosley said after the game that you don't really account for those guys to do those things. You got to account for something with everyone on this Celtics team, and it's what makes them the toughest out in the NBA, not named Oklahoma City.
Well, I mean, the Magic basically pitched a shutout, or they were close to it, but you're going up against the Dodgers lineup, and at some point, you can only pitch around Shohei Ohtani so many times before, there's Freddie Freeman. Then that's what the Celtics are like from a basketball perspective. They just hit you from so many different directions. And that doesn't mean that they're not beatable. I do think the good news is the Magic held the Celtics to 103 points. That's not anything to scoff at. That is 13 points lower than their season average. And that was game one in front of their home fans. If they can continue to do that, they do have a chance to steal a couple of games. If they don't, then it's going to be over in a few days. But if you can continue to do that, I don't think the Magic will shoot as poorly every game. You'll have another one like this, but I do need to remind people. Boston is, Boston's great, but the Magic struggled shooting the basketball. The guys that are not Paolo and Franz provided no support. I would like to welcome a lot of you to a season already in progress. Tyler, this isn't anything new. How many times have we had these conversations exactly like this? The team can't shoot the three. Nobody else is making shots. It's not like what we got. And this is the reason why. Do I think the Magic are going to win this series? No. I didn't think they were going to win it going in. I thought they had a chance because of the way they match up with Boston, and I really think they can win a couple of games. I still think that. I'm not in panic mode because I didn't see anything yesterday that I haven't seen 100 times from the Magic. So it's not like we got some weirdo result, some oddball game. We've seen this game play out how many times over the course of the season? So I just don't think there's any reason to panic, to go into off-season mode. That's what fans always want to do right after you lose game one. Oh, let's start talking about what the team needs. The team needed a point guard and guys that can shoot before the game tipped off. You don't need it more after you lose by 17 to the Celtics in game one.
That game, there aren't any major takeaways to your point, of stuff that you didn't already know. Corey Joseph has been very unique for this team this year, and he's been great for this team at times this year. And I do believe that Corey Joseph is not one of the players that is afraid to step into a shot. It might have to be encouraged by a late shot clock situation and not making that extra pass for him to pull, but you've seen Kojo be efficient from the field and from deep and being a three-point shooting option. But is it because of how Boston was defending Orlando as a whole that Kojo just wasn't able to get off more than one shot in 26 minutes? That type of thing can't happen in the postseason. Either Kojo was locked up the entire game or there are passed up opportunities. And it's not just Corey Joseph. KCP was kind of active early. He finished with a pair of threes on the game. In the playoffs, this is where you need all of your guys. You need these spectacular performances from Paolo and Franz, which Franz – Rocky, the second quarter, what he gave you was great, and he still finished with 20-something points. But when it comes to those unusual suspects, the third guy, whatever we call them, you need someone to deliver. And more than someone, you need the balanced delivery. It can't just be a two-headed monster with a bunch of puppies out there that won't do anything with it.
No, I mean, you have to, let's just put it plainly, you have to get multiple players in at least double figures. You're going to get a performance like that from Paolo pretty much every single game in this series. You're hopefully going to get a more efficient performance from Franz. I don't think he was bad, but there was a lack of efficiency, and there's definitely a lack of that three-point shot. It was ugly last year in the playoffs. It got better during the regular season this year, and there is obviously a mental hurdle that Franz has to get over, flipping the script from regular season to postseason, because his three-point shot goes from not great to completely evaporating. And he's got to get over that. And you got to get over that from one game to the next. But you have to get guys into double figures. There have to be, I would say, for you to have a legitimate chance to beat the Boston Celtics, you have to always defend the way they defended in this game. So at least you have that. Paolo's got to do what he does. You feel pretty good about those two things being consistent game to game. Franz has to knock down at least 2 threes just to keep the defense honest, and you need 4 players in double figures, and I don't think that's asking too much. I might even be light in saying 4, but you need at least 4.
A big difference maker in this game as well were the turnovers, the fast break points that it led to. The fast break point split was 26-4 in Boston's favor. Orlando turned the ball over 15 times, and that's too many in a postseason scenario. But the Magic have won games this year when you turn the ball over 15 times. But when you have 15 turns for 24 points, you can simple math this. That means that almost every single turnover, the Celtics were benefiting. The Celtics were scoring. If it's an even deuce after every turnover, that gets them to 30 points off turnovers. You finish with 24 points off turnovers for Boston. So it's the live ball turnover, something that you can't come to expect. Most of them were live ball, and Jake and Dante detailed it. It was above the break. It was jumping a passing lane, stripping a ball handler, whatever it was, and then, hey, dribble 1-2, and it's a dunk on the other end. Those are the things that you can clean up. I think now the Magic have been punched, if you will, and now you learn to counter that punch in that particular area. The pace of the game was, I think it was won by Orlando. That wasn't holding Boston to 103, even though Boston doesn't play tremendously fast. A huge part of it was the possessions game. At one point, the Magic had shot more shots than the Celtics and were still trailing. It was an Orlando basketball game, and that's a promising sign. But I think this team, when the Celtics do get knocking down threes and Derek White is going for the 30 points, it can be demoralizing. You have to put any self-feelings to the side. Any negative energy, you have to get it out of your head. And that's a battle that the Magic continue, as they have all season long, to try to get over.
Yeah, because like I said, this is not anything new. The Magic failed to score 90 points. This is not the first time this has happened. The Magic have failed to score at least 90 points 8 times this season. This is not new, and I haven't looked down every team in the NBA, but I would think as far as the teams that made the playoffs, so eliminate teams like the Hornets and the Wizards that would just give up 2 quarters into a basketball game, and they're really, really bad rosters. I would guess that is the highest number of games to score into the 80s of all the teams that are in the playoffs. To do it 9 or 8 times over the course of the season, 9 times if you include that game against the Boston Celtics. So that it's just not new. My overall point is it frustrating? Of course. When you're living through it, it sucks that your team is getting blasted. You have all this hope because of the first half, and then the second half goes awry. Everything Boston is doing is working, and everything you're doing is not, and you're giving them these free baskets with turnovers. I don't feel any differently about this series today than I felt going into it. After game 1. That's my point. Do you feel any different after game 1 than you felt going into the series?
No, not in the slightest. You didn't learn anything new. There are promising signs to take away, but at the end of the day, it is the Boston Celtics that have been my pick to come out of the East since the beginning, has been my pick to win the NBA championship since the beginning. I've held pat on all of it. I'm holding firm. This Celtics team is I said it heading into the last week of the regular season that I think that because of the matchup and the similarities in a way between Boston and Orlando of how Orlando has been able to contain Boston in the Paolo Banchero era, Boston was the more favorable matchup over the 1 seed in Cleveland. However, Boston is still my favorite to win the whole thing. It doesn't make perfect sense, but it's Boston at the end of the day. Why Vegas is saying Boston in 5 is because if you play the Celtics 5 times, with both teams as a full strength is what they can be right now, there's going to be a game where it's an Orlando Magic-led basketball game, and the main storyline coming out isn't going to be about Boston. You get 1 out of every 5 in the postseason because it's who Boston is and it's who Orlando is right now. Doesn't mean that you can't win those games, but that's the reality of the situation.
And this is why I would say, I said going in, 2 games against this team would be really impressive. And that's not taking a defeatist approach. I also think stealing that 1 game is okay. That's nice. It'll be fun the day it happens. If that's all you get, I feel like that's a disappointment. And that's the difference between 2 games and 1. Taking 2 games against a team as good as what you saw yesterday, and if you've been following all season, as good as they've been all year, that is an incredibly difficult thing to do. And if you're the team that is able to do it, you might be the only team not named Cleveland to be able to accomplish that in the Eastern Conference. And that is something to hang your hat on. That's the difference between 1 game and 2.
I do want to ask, when the potential of talking about a sweep, because when I was asked last week on different outlets, what does it take for fans to be satisfied in this series? And I didn't put a number on it. If I had to, I would say yes, 5. Orlando gets 1. But if this Orlando team gets swept, being disappointed about the series, because we talk about were we surprised yesterday? No, neither one of us were surprised. You saw a game for Orlando that has been played out on every big stage for the most part throughout the season. It is what it is at this point. If that happens 3 more times, are we surprised?
Yes, I would be surprised at that point if it happened 3 more times. The surprising part isn't that it happened. I mean, we've seen these performances, but what we've also seen from this team over the season is a really strong bounce back effort, is playing a lot better at home than they have on the road. I know this year there were times when that was actually flipped, but for the most part, over the last 2 years and historically in the playoffs in general, your role players are going to be better at home than they are away from home. If that happens to them every single game for 4 games, I will be very disappointed. I'll be disappointed if that happens to them the 4 games Boston wins and Orlando only gets 1. I need to see 2 wins from this team to not walk away from the postseason feeling a level of disappointment.
I think it's fair. I don't know. I see this. I
get it. It's
view of this team.
It is very difficult to pull that off, but this was supposed to be a year of growth. And I accept that moving on to round 2 is not a likely outcome for this team. So just give me 2 round 1 wins and I will feel somewhat satisfied. And I even think with that, forget about the opponent for a second, as hard as that is.
That's the thing, yeah.
But that is, you are letting the team off the hook. And I think 2 wins is, it's still within range. It was a long shot for the Magic to win this series to begin with. That game, in our opinion, should not have changed your mind on that. Up next, our first 4 things. Cooper Flagg's decision is in. And who wants Ashton Genty the most? There's a team that seems to be rising to the top of that list. But first, the latest from Jake Chapman and these Orlando Magic.
With today's Magic Minute, I'm Jake Chapman. The Magic held a 1-point halftime